Welcome back to Off Track on Purpose. Today we're here for another instalment of our Cornish Classic series, and what better to show off Cornwall than Chysauster Ancient Village, or in the Cornish Chysauster. We're really excited to be here to show you around this ancient historic landmark, and hopefully you'll enjoy seeing and learning a bit more about Cornwall. So come with us today, learn more about Cornwall and enjoy the sights that we have to show you.
So we've got another lovely day with beautiful sunny clear blue skies. Really nice to get out when the weather is like this. It's been quite a while since we've actually got out. It's got a bit of a cold wind, but nothing as bad as what we've had in the last couple of weeks.
Just outside Penzance, set slightly inland from the Cornish coast, there's a place where the place hasn't been rebuilt or recreated, but simply left where it has always been. This is Chysauster Ancient Village. At first it doesn't reveal itself all at once. You follow a path through open ground, up a hill, the landscape stretching all around you, and then slowly the shapes begin to emerge. Low stone walls, curving lines, structures that don't quite look like anything modern. And as soon as you get closer, it becomes clear this isn't just a collection of ruins or old rocks, this was once a living place.
Okay guys, so we've just got to Chysauster Ancient Village. It's the best preserved area in Britain when it comes to history. It was the late sort of Iron Age and then the early Roman time. So you'll see, if you come with me a second, you'll see on this map here sort of what you'll be seeing. So that's reconstruction of the house, AD 200. So just a bit of information, we're about to explore one of the best preserved ancient villages in Britain. It's a close-knitted community that was about 1,800 years ago, which is quite crazy to think about it. So we are just going to be going up this area here, and then we'll show you the little village that it's got to offer. As you can see behind us, what a place this is. We're quite high up, so it's got some beautiful views around. And what a lovely day for it.
Chysauster is one of the best preserved ancient villages in Cornwall, dating back nearly 2,000 years to the late Iron Age. What you're seeing here was once a small, thriving community. The layout is striking. Instead of straight lines or rigid planning, the buildings form a series of interconnected spaces, clusters of round houses arranged around open courtyards. These are known as courtyard houses, a style unique to this part of Cornwall. As you walk into these spaces, the structure begins to make more sense. The thick stone walls would have supported roofs made of organic materials, timber, thatch and turf, long since gone. What remains is a foundation, but even without the roofs, you can still trace the shape of daily life.
You've got quite a nice little shack up there, but I would imagine that throughout the summer they'll open up and they'll start selling some teas and coffees there. As you saw just a minute ago, that is the ticket office just down there. It's not open this time of year.
Each courtyard would have been at the centre of a household. Rooms open off it, spaces for sleeping, working, storing food and gathering. It wasn't just a shelter, it was a system. A way of organising life around shared space, protection from the elements and a strong sense of community. The stonework itself is remarkable. But without mortar, these walls would have stood for centuries, shaped and fitted by hand, using materials gathered from the land itself.
So it's just saying on this sign here, this house was first evacuated in 1931, when it was found to be badly disturbed, probably because it was adapted in more recent times for outdoor preaching. The most surprising thing about House 7, which is this house in front of us here, was the sheer quantity of finds, including 1,322 pieces of pottery, far more than the other dwellings. But it's weird to think, all of this area you're seeing now would have actually had thatched roofs.
You can almost imagine people sat here, 1800 years ago, just going about their daily lives, it's really amazing to think. It's actually really sheltered from the wind in here as well compared to when we were out there. It's a really nice setting, and as we said, the views you can see from here, you can understand why they chose this location. So it's well, you can see everything for miles and miles and miles around.
There's a quiet precision to it. Nothing decorative, nothing unnecessary. Just function, form and endurance. It's easy to imagine movement here. People passing through these narrow entrances. Conversations carried across courtyards. The sound of work, of animals, of daily routines. This wasn't isolated. This was connected, both within the village and to a wider landscape. By the time Chysauster was inhabited, Britain was undergoing change. The Roman Empire had extended to reach across much of its land, bringing new systems, trade works and influences. But here in Cornwall, life seems to have continued with a degree of independence. Evidence suggests that while the people of Chysauster were aware of Roman goods and trade, they maintained many of their own traditions and ways of building. The position of the village isn't accidental. Set on a gentle slope, it offers both shelter and visibility, protection from harsh weather, while still allowing a view across the surrounding land, and beyond that, towards the coast.
So House 8 a lot smaller compared to House 7, so obviously it was a more of an individual dwelling for a couple of people, 1 or 2, maybe 3 people. Not much going on here, but you can kind of get the feel for how people might have lived. See, the walls are quite low now after 1800 years. Get the wind up here, so that's probably contributed to the dilapidation over time, but some really cool ruins to see. The walls around us gives you the feel of how people might have lived.
From here, you can sense how landscape would have shaped daily life. Farming, grazing, gathering, all tied closely to the rhythm of land. Inside the structures, the atmosphere changes again. Even without roofs, there's a feeling of enclosure. The walls hold the space. They create a sense of boundary, of inside and outside, of private and shared. The entrances are often low and narrow. You have to step carefully, sometimes duck slightly, and in doing so, you become more aware of entering rather than just passing through. There's something powerful about that. These buildings weren't designed for spectacle, they were designed for living. And yet, standing here now, they invite a different kind of attention, a slower kind.
So this area again, like Will said,
An interesting house. It's less of a round house compared to some of the other ones. It's more, you can kind of see the square walls, but a good size. You would have fit a whole family in here quite comfortably. Yeah, it's quite lower compared to some of the other walls around here, but the size of it probably makes up for that. And you can kind of picture they may have had farmland out back there, just on that size up there. Who knows? But again, the views just to die for.
Chysauster, particularly in the early 20th century, helped uncover much of what we see today. Finds of the site, including pottery and evidence of trade, suggest the village was occupied by several generations before eventually being abandoned, likely sometime in the Roman period. Exactly why it was left isn't fully known.
It's another big house, as you say, very circular. They've got more kind of land out the back there that they may have probably farmed or kept animals or livestock.
But like many places of its time, its story isn't defined by a single ending, but by gradual change. As you move from one courtyard to the other, the repetition becomes noticeable. Similar layouts, similar proportions, but not identical. Each space has its own subtle differences, shaped by people who lived there, and yet they all fit together, not just physically, but socially. This wasn't a scattered settlement, it was a community built with intention, and even now, there's a kind of order to it.
An interesting feature about this roundhouse, Todd, this was probably, looking at it, probably some kind of fireplace.
Definitely.
So, you know, even back then people needed to keep warm, especially up here on the hill where you get the winds all year round. And over the winter, you know, we know what Cornish winters are like. Can be cold, can be very, very wet and bitter. So a fire in the middle of the house just like this, you can imagine how warm this would have kept them, especially with that thatched roof on top, keeping all the heat in. Lovely, lovely spot. It does actually go through here, so this is obviously maybe some kind of living area. It goes through here into more of a probably communal space. Would have been probably some kind of bedroom, looking at it. I mean, I can imagine myself sleeping in here. Don't know about you.
Yeah, definitely.
Perhaps up on a little bed up here.
It's very flat as well. It's a perfect ground for it.
Absolutely. Obviously they wouldn't have had all the moss and stuff like that back then. Maybe they did, who knows? But it was probably dirt and straw that they would have kept on the floor and maintained. Now, whether or not these were kind of an addendum to the building, because as you can see there is a door just through there that comes into here. It could have been some kind of a stable to keep livestock. It could have been more bedrooms. So probably two adjoining houses where people were quite familiar with each other in the same way that we have terraces and neighbourhoods today, you know, quite similar to that. So let's go up. I think the main one is just here on the left. Probably the main roundhouse where they had maybe some kind of hierarchy, who knows.
Imagine the sounds that would have filled this place. Fire crackling, tools striking stone or metal, voices carrying around the courtyards. Now those sounds are gone, replaced by wind, by distant birds, by the quiet movement of air through stone. Beyond the village, the landscape continues, largely unchanged in its form, even if its use has shifted. Fields still stretch outwards, boundaries still divide the land. Time has moved on, but it has not been erased. The memories are still here, even now. As you begin to leave, the structures gradually fall back into the ground. The walls lower, the shapes flatten, the village becomes part of the landscape again.
Isn't it just amazing how well preserved these rooms are? And you can quite clearly make them out. How you've got these side rooms here, you've got another one there, maybe that was a bathroom. Just going through here, you've got a little tunnel to another room, a little corridor into another room, and then another one out the back as well. Now this is undoubtedly the main event. If you just come through here, follow me through this little alleyway, you can just see what a complex network. More of those metalworking stations, as they say here, and maybe a little fireplace in the middle. This room obviously quite substantial, but through here into the main room, it's even massive. More so. The size of it is quite impressive, and how long it would have taken them to get in these stones up here from adjoining fields.
Make yourself at home. House 6. This is the largest and best preserved house and was the first to be excavated in 1873. But look at it. So this is obviously what it would have looked like. So you would have had sort of like a thatched roof just here, and then you've got all of the roof around the edges here.
So this was almost a courtyard out in the middle. And then all of these adjoining rooms would have been separate, almost separate houses where they would have had the thatched roof on top.
And then if we go up here, we have another little room, all adjoint to everything. Again, so sort of like what we've both touched on, it was a really, really communal area. You know, you would have had loads of people all living together, all sort of trying to live together and make, you know, their lives as easy as possible. Because back then, you've got to think, 1800 years ago, you wouldn't have had much. So the fact that this is still standing is quite incredible, to be honest.
And everything out there that we see today, all of the fields that have obviously been well maintained, they would have just been open marshes, open heathland, woodland. You know, it would have been completely different. This would have been the only thing that you could have seen.
Chysauster isn't a reconstruction of the past. It's the past itself, weathered, incomplete and still present. A place where you can walk through these spaces that were once lived in and not imagined. And in doing so, you're not just observing history, you're moving through it.
So if you guys enjoyed this little video, obviously it is a different series to what we were doing when we first started the YouTube. Hit that like button, please hit the subscribe button and follow us along. This is obviously our second video, so we've got loads planned. There's so many different beautiful landscapes and places to go in Cornwall. So let us know down in the comments below if there's anything you'd like to see or what you liked from this video.